Can you be? Oh. Okay, I think this is a personal. Let's go back. Boys, Clubhouse is mad, you know, it's gonna kick me out. The live room has ended, but check back soon to catch the replay. What has it done? Okay. Sorry, bear with me a second. There's just gonna Clubhouse is just gonna throw me out. Right. I'm gonna have to schedule a new event by the looks of it. Goodness. While we're waiting, are there any questions at all? Okay, it looks like Clubhouse has just literally thrown me out for until 7:30. Because you can only say half an hour in between. No, it doesn't actually. But it's kicked me out literally. It's literally thrown me out the whole thing.
Zamal, it's also said that the live room has ended, but check back soon to catch, what does it say?
Oh,
catch the replay.
All right. Yeah. Hang on a second, hold on. No, that's the replay. Okay, are there any questions on Zoom while we're waiting for this Clubhouse to start back up?
Zamal, I was going to ask for the two prayers that we have, the all, the Papa Ut, and the one that you, the second one's after that.
Yeah.
Could you give a breakdown to us on the physical aspect and the spiritual aspect of both of those chants, please?
Okay, so let's just go back. So when you say the physical aspect, in what sense? Obviously, Rahubat.
For example, we were speaking about the all prayer the other day. You know, we were saying, you know, we succeed as part of the all and fail as individuals.
Okay.
So that is on the physical aspect. And then on the spiritual or say etheric aspect, what that all is.
Okay. Well, what you're dealing with, okay, you are invoking, this is an invocation and a mental picture you're creating, okay? So we understand that we are part of something greater. Do you know what I mean? We're connected to something greater. So our etheric, or for the lack of a better word, spiritual connection to that is far greater than us, allows us to recognize that we're not individuals. Okay, we're actually come as a whole that have been subdivided. So we have the mentality that we're individuals. Okay, so this affirmation here is to get you to realize that you are part of a whole and not as an individual or a single being, right? So this is affirming, that's what it's called, affirmation. You're affirming your existence as part of that. And when you are invoking and what's the word, uttering these words, okay, these are actually formulas, Do you understand? They're not just normal, just words that we just say good morning or good day, you know, in passing with each other. These are actually what is known as incantations or formulas that are designed to invoke in you your spiritual essence. Okay, so the love aspect, as it says, you're inside of that divine love. You know, when you understand or practice divine love, is that you no longer have an individual mentality. You have more of a embracing, accepting mentality. You want to be working with others, okay, in love, and as the master has always taught us, in love and unity. So that's the whole point of us working, you know, it's saying these invocations and this affirmation is to realize that we are part of this. And the physical aspect is obviously practicing it. You with me? The mental aspect or the spiritual aspect is when you start to see the results of that action by the works that is produced. Yeah. So this is what we're aiming towards when we say the affirmation. You're making a sound confirmation in your mind's eye, okay, to your being, that your being is connected to a far more greater power that we all can tap into, which is Pa'ut. Yeah, so that's what the affirmation is designed to do, for you to realize that you're bigger than this. You're expanding that love that is supposed to be just something that you have towards maybe yourself or for immediate family. Is also to be expanded to those who are of you as well, in the sense of the African race or the Nagaru race. So our whole job as Sabians is to spread that unity and that divine love and practice it each day, you know, helping each other, seeing when you see a brother or sister that need help, you know, assisting them in any capacity, in your own capacity, not just necessarily financial capacity. It could be in any form of capacity, being kind towards one another, you know, as master teachers always taught us, first learn to care. So once you start to care and once you start to expand that care and love, it leads to divine love, you know, where you unconditionally do things without even having those, what's the word, aversions and not wanting to try and, oh, if I do it, am I going to get any reward for it? Yeah, so it's basically, you're not expecting any reward. You just do as you do. Do you understand? In order to help those who are in need, you know? So that's what the affirmation is really about. And when you read the first part, obviously, Baro, 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 holy, 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 master, overseer, almighty, yeah, it's an acknowledgement of who you're descended from. You see what I'm saying? So that, but Ptah, no deity except Ptah, no savior except Yanun. We know that our spiritual essence is coming directly from them. Yeah, and that's the reason why Yanun and Ptah have been able to, not have been able to, sorry, we've been able to make that link back to them because we are of their seed. Yeah, and there's actually a little children's book that the master teacher explains what Ptah actually did in order to put his DNA and his seed into the waters. Yeah, it's also Ptah is the one that has closed off he quarantined this planet. You understand? So that in order for us to make it to where we're supposed to get to, that then the quarantine will be lifted and then we'll be able to leave this realm because there are gateways that Ptah has actually closed. So that's the affirmation. Just go up a bit just to break it down a little bit more.
Rahbat Jamal Need.
Yeah.
See if you can get back on Clubhouse because we're listening through Brass Tacks
Okay.
Clubhouse, but see if you can get back on.
Yeah, I'm trying, but for some reason I don't even know what happened. It just literally.
No problem. Now we'll check out.
Yeah. Right, so that one. So where is the next class? I've just set up another class.
No, we're already in the one you set up before.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's
so
still in there. Okay. Right, so what would you like me to do now?
just join that class.
Okay. Don't think it's allowing me. That's the thing.
So if you go to the wu-sabat room, you should see the Q&A with student teachers.
Yeah, I see it, but it takes me straight to a recording. That's what it's taking me straight to a recording.
You can't just join it?
No, it's just literally taking me straight to the recording that recorded for 15 minutes and cut me off.
Okay, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
We have people already on the one that we're in at the moment.
Oh,
and you're through on Bastak's phone.
That's really weird.
Bastak can try and invite you.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, carry on. So
yeah. So it's okay. Tell for letting me know that. So yeah, so essentially Zamalta, it's us making that solid affirmation, okay, when you're invoking your ancestors, going to the other one about prayer to the ancestors. Okay, what we have to acknowledge is that, okay, all right, that's what last week. Right, so what we have to start realizing, the reality is that all of us, okay, are connected by way of our genetics. Yeah, we're connected by way of our genetics. And being that we're genetically connected, okay, can I be heard? Yeah, being that we're genetically connected to Papa Ot, sorry, to our ancestors, I beg your pardon, all right, is making us all brothers and sisters spiritually. Yeah, ethically, we're all brothers and sisters. So somewhere down the line, thousands and millions or thousands of years ago, okay, we've been made to think that we're not all connected. We've been made to think that we're separate. That's where the problems occurred. So within the prayer to our ancestors, what's happened is they've managed to convince us that our ancestors are not alive. Once they die, they don't exist in any state or form of existence. So what Pana Babianun has got us to realize is that there are other forms and states of existence. And one of these states of existence is known as the etheric realm, or for the lack of a better word, the spiritual realm. Okay, and within the spiritual realm, beings exist in a state of energy. Okay, because energy doesn't die. Energy can only be converted to one form or another. So our physical ancestors, they have, yes, the physical part of them has decomposed, you with me, and gone back to the soil. However, the real self, the essence of them, which is spirit and soul, okay, travels to higher planes of existence. Okay, and this higher planes of existence or vibration, higher planes of vibration and realities is where they reside. And what someone's happened to some of our relatives, okay, is that some of them are trapped in some of these different existences or realms that we talk about. So our affirmation, okay, is the physical aspect is the prayer, because we're uttering, it's an utterance, okay, and it's an invocation, okay. Another word for it is an incantation. When you hear the word incantation, most people think of it as some kind of witchcraft, or obeah or something like that when you say an incantation. But incantation purely means that you are invoking and calling on your ancestors who exist in the energy realm. So if you understand how energy works, you know that energy is drawn to its resonance frequency. All right. So i.e., for instance, if you have two people in a room who are drawn to each other, and then they build up a rapport and they get on very well with each other, it's very similar to spiritual forces. That energy that is being resonated is permeating through you by way of your mind and by way of your, lack of a better word again, the spiritual part of you. So the spiritual part of you is vibrating at a certain frequency where it then makes a connection or a link with your energy ancestors who reside in that realm. And so this is what has been a concentrated effort made throughout the generations and throughout history to remove us away from that reality. Because in doing that, it cut us off from them being able to help us in this realm. Okay, and also guide us and, you know, also protect us in this realm. Because once we make a link to our ancestors by way of these incantations or invocations and affirmations, which is the physical part of it, the ether, the spiritual aspect that's happening is that you are now creating a resonant frequency. Okay, and the way the master explained it is you being on a telephone line. All right, so imagine somebody giving you, or one of your relatives who lives, let's say in Australia, and they gave you their number and they say, call me anytime if you need me to help you, or if you want to talk about something, like, you know. And then when you need that person, you get on the phone and you call them long distance, but it's wireless. Correct? Because now we're using mobile phones. We hardly use our landlines to call. We know most of us now use our mobile phones to make a call. So that if you look and the similarity of your invocations and your affirmations as a form of telephone communication without the aid of wires, okay, to that energy realm to connect with your ancestors is the same principle as of having a mobile phone that carries modulated frequencies through the airwaves and then connects with your uncle or auntie in Africa or wherever the case may be. You know, a long distance call has been made and they actually pick up and say, hey, how you doing? You know, how can I help you? Or is everything okay, etc. The reality of these things is that we as Nagaru have that spiritual connection, have that resonant frequency, but our vibration has been reduced to the level of all other beings on the planet. And because of that, we no longer have that direct access to them. So the whole point of these prayers, affirmations, and rituals that we do in wu-sabat, or when you go to certain African countries, they still pour libation, or when they're doing a naming ceremony, they'll call on the ancestors to, or even from, like, for example, if you to bring it home to yourself and where you're from, like for me, I'm from Ghana. So when the child's born, a child's given a name, and that name is a frequency and a vibration and a tone which links them back into their ancestors. So like the same principle that the master is trying to show us is that these things are real. And once you make that ka'a and ba'a, okay, connection with your achach, which is your etheric being, which is then tapped into the papa'ut, okay, your oversoul, which is linked to papa'ut, which is linked to the supreme beings, the overseers, who are Panataru. Yeah, this is what we're aiming to do. This is what the master teacher has brought us to actually get us to realize through the tones and the vibrations and the frequencies, etc. You are making that telephone call and that link back to them, you know, every time you dial that number, okay? And that number is in the form of tones and vibrations, the F, the A, and the C. So in reading Patakyud, for instance, what the master explained is that these are formulas. So the formula is based on the 3-part root letters, okay? And then when you add the correct phonemes or phonetics, i.e. the A, E, I, O, U, or mostly A and E. If you notice, most of our words are A, I, or O, or U in there. But the main part is the root. So if you're saying, for instance, you know, a particular deity, okay, using your name, for example, when you're saying Bastat, okay, that deity, you're invoking that being because they reside in your blood. So when you go back to Let Us Pray, where it talks about our ancestors who are inside of our genes, okay, and it says, hear us when we pray, it's not just a propagation or movement of sound into the ethers, is also being invoked in your very fiber of your being, in your genes, in your DNA, in your blood. Because the etheric side of you is carried in your blood. Yeah, the reality of what we refer to as neurotransmitters, okay, are, or what the masters refer to as brain newts, which are generated from ether or a form of ether. These brain newts are actually your ancestors who reside in your blood system, and you're able to communicate to them, and they're able to then make things clearer for you, or make things explain or give you clarity and give you a sense of awareness of who you are. So this is what the prayers do. This is what we do when we say in our affirmations, or saying our prayers, or saying all the other names like the 99 attributes, etc. This is what is happening each time we say the 9, 3, and 9, you know, or whatever time that you're able to remember or able to practice it. Because I know it's not easy for everyone. Some people are still working, you know, and it clashes with other things in life. But if you're able to instill a form of discipline where you're able to do it at 9, 3, and 9 on a daily basis, what you're doing is you're generating that etheric energy, okay? And that etheric energy is then moving through the spheres, the different levels and spheres of this realm, okay? And into the other realms, which is then making what they refer to as quantum entanglement. Okay, for those who don't know, maybe let's just go into the internet quickly and we can bring up, let me share my screen. I'm still sharing, okay? Sorry for those on Clubhouse if you're not able to see this, but if I'll read it to you. Let me just move this out of the way. Right, so it's called quantum entanglement, yeah? So they're actually referred to as a theory. Yeah, so I'm sharing. Oh, strange. Oh, okay, one second. I'll stop sharing one. Let's stop sharing. Then let me share another screen. Let me share again. Which one are you? It's that one, isn't it? Okay, right. So when you can I be seen? Yeah. Right. So if we go to two particles, I'll just go to space.com just for ease of reference. All these agree. Oh my goodness, pop-ups. Exactly. Okay, can you see the screen? Those on Zoom?
Sure, Azama.
Okay, so as they say, it's a theory, okay, but we understand that if particles are energy, okay, particles are energy, which are and there's different states of energy. We already know that because we can look at water, and water has different states. All right, so when you do the simple science in chemistry, You know that if you heat up water, the molecules spread apart, you know, it becomes a gas. Okay, if you condense it down using another type of state of condition, it will condense down to vapor or liquid, you know, so you have different states of existence. Okay, these are states. And even when you to get even deeper into it and you use an electron microscope or some kind of microscope, you look into the particles of water, you actually find microbes in the water themselves. So that's just showing you that there are even worlds within worlds where certain tiny particles of animals, protozoas, etc., reside within this water. So there's a life in that water that you might just be drinking, do you know what I mean, from a tap water, for instance. Yeah, there's actually life in there. But going into quantum entanglement, they say that it is a bizarre, counterintuitive phenomena that explains how two subatomic particles can be intimately linked to each other, even if separated by billions of light years of space. Okay, so as it's showing you here, that they're explaining that you can be linked to each other. All right. So when we're reading from Patarak, or when we're reading our prayers and we're reading other things and clearing our minds and making that sincere connection with our ancestors, this is what's taking place, as partner by Dr. Malachi Zedjork has been explaining, is that the quantum entanglement takes place, where you are actually making a link to each other, okay, but beyond space and time. Because what you have to realize is that light has what they refer to as an upper limit, okay, which is 186,200 blah, blah, blah per feet per second. So within space or dark energy, there's a limitation to how fast or how far light can travel, okay, in a given, you know, time frame. But with sound, okay, sound acts a little bit differently, even though it is a form of light, which is synonym with light in the sense that when you're uttering with your vocal cords, that sound is being changed, okay, into an energy that propagates in the universe, okay, and it goes on continuously over and over and over. It just leaps and bounds, passing through different dimensions. So what this is effectively happening is that you're making a link with your Salafu, okay, who exist in, like I said, in different realms or in different states of existence, which the master teacher is slowly revealing to us, okay, the hidden mysteries of our ancestors and how they're able to still operate, you know, in this, you know, and effectively, you know, help us in this day and time, even though we may attribute it to the different religious, monotheistic religious concept of the creator and God and, you know, who this supreme being is. But really and truly, as Afro-Africa or Africans, okay, we had a spiritual science or have a spiritual science, okay, which the master teachers explain is wu-sabat, okay, ontology and animism. And this is just basically what is happening each time we do our affirmations. And the divine love that's coming from them, okay, is supposed to then help you generate divine love through yourself to others. You know, it's like when it gives you the symbol of Re, the sun, Atun, and then you've got the different hands that touch each child on the planet. Well, that's exactly what's happening, where the energy of our ancestors from that realm of existence, they literally put in that divine love through us. Now, the reason why divine love is not channeled in a way that we're supposed to channel it is because we have other forces at play within our very DNA as well, you know, and these forces, they hinder us, okay, from being able to have that connection with all others, especially our own race. And it leads to all the different things of, you know, distrust, not trusting each other, not working with each other, because we have other forces that are within our very fiber of our DNA in our genes. So I hope that, without me going on too much, explains the reasons as to why we're, you know, why it's so important for us to have a spiritual and a physical prayers, etc., and what the value is of practicing that on a daily basis, if and when you can. I hope that makes sense. Antata for Zamata. And there's, I can see. Okay, right. So Wunmi Allen, just going into the chat for a few says that sometimes I feel like it's a test. Yep, that's very true. I hope the explanation, Wunmi Allen, made it more clearer as to why we have to clear our minds, you know, because in being able to clear your mind or declutter the mind, you're able to then receive more information, okay, which allows you then to practice your own spiritual science. Most of the time, the reason why we find it difficult, or you know, we kind of like slip, you know, is because when we haven't decluttered our minds enough, you know. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. And I'm not gonna stand here and say it's easy. It's challenging, and this is why it's the test, because you have to, you know, be on your right frequency most of the time, you know. And there are ways of doing it. There's certain affirmations, personal affirmations that you can say to yourself that'll keep you in that resonant frequency. You know, I for one will be on my way to work or wherever, just have the playing constantly, or I have the affirmation playing, or have the tones playing. Something will always be affecting the way, and I'm constantly thinking about Pa Nataru or Pa Marzaku or our Sabian tribe. So these are the things that, if we're talking about being serious with this, and this is no dig at anybody, nobody, don't take this personal, but I'm just saying that when we're serious about wu-sabat, wu-sabat will be serious with you. You know, it will help you in so many ways, you know. But it's the practice of it. That's the only way that I can explain it. You got to practice it. The masters always said, read, 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 and teach, teach, teach. Yeah, so when you're reading and you're conveying this information to others, okay, it makes it much more easier to have more grounded comprehension, you know. So I hope that answers your question. I hope it makes it more clearer, Wunmi.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Any further questions at all? Remember, this is your opportunity to ask questions on any subject that you may have. Rahubat. Okay. Were you going to say something? Okay. Greetings. Okay. Right, no one's got anything to say. Okay, let me check on
Hey, Zamal.
Oh, okay. Rahubat.
I don't have a question as such, but I would like to say I would like to continue to send out my thoughts today.
Okay.
In reflection, and ask Pa Natharu, the overseers, to guide us in our shop and give guidance to my auntie, burial service today in Jamaica.
Okay. May she travel safely back to the relatives.
Tawata.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Yeah, it is all about that, because again, I'm glad you brought that up, Zamata, because sometimes when we feel like relatives are not close to us, that, you know, we're powerless to do anything about it. But that's far from the truth. That's far from the reality, because the reality is that it goes back to this, that they are in you. Yeah, you are part of them and they are part of you. This is what the all affirmations about. I'm a part of all, and all is a part of me. Yeah, so you are the all in all, and all of us are multiple the alls in all. Okay, and that acknowledgement and that reality breaks down the barrier, that mental barrier, okay, being able to and get you to realize that we're all one and the same being. Okay, we have different personalities, we have different features, we have different physiologies, but the essence is connected to the same source, okay, which is Parnatharu, our ancestors. So when you break down the barriers, that's what this, you know, that's part of the why I put the title or the question, you know what I mean? Is your mind, you know, is your mind clear? It's because it's just that, it's clearing or decluttering your mind to allow you to see the reality that you can make a quantum entanglement with any of your relatives. Yes, there are going to be those who are disagreeable. So I'm not going to say they're all agreeable. You with me? Because they also had their trials and tribulations, their challenges, their good and bad, for the lack of a better word, in their life. They had their struggles, etc. However, you still have a connection to them, you know, and hence when a child is born, you know, that child will resemble an ancestor or relatives that has passed on. We all say, oh, you resemble this, or you act like such and such, and so and so. It's not just because it's a physiological thing, you with me, or mental thing. It's because you actually have that spirit that works within you sometimes, you know. So we all have between just your immediate generation, you have 40 ancestors, okay, generations going back, and sorry, 30 ancestors, beg your pardon. And within those 30 ancestors, any one of them can assist you or hinder you. All right. And that's the reality of it, you know. So you're able to discern those ancestors, the agreeable and the disagreeable ones, by the mere fact of what the intentions are. Yeah. So if you know there's an intention to help somebody, you know and it's not directly coming from you. You with me? Or there's an ancestor or a particular being, and you may think, why should I help that person? What they do is just go and buy cigarettes or go and buy their drugs with their money, etc., etc. Yeah. Who are you to judge? You with me? So sometimes it's not necessarily us who are feeling that way. Sometimes it's those relatives that are within us that can also cause us to feel that way, you know, and it's projected through our emotions and through our feelings. You know, it happens in relationships, it happens in just general day life, you know, and we help them also. Not help them, we invoke them at times without even realizing. Sometimes there's certain foods that we may eat that may awaken an ancestor in your DNA or in your bloodline. You know, for instance, you might just have a tendency to just have that odd burger or have that, you know, fish and steak, chips and steak or something, or fish and chips, or even just a lovely chocolate ice cream, you know. But you may awaken that particular gene that's in your blood, you know, and then it might potentially become, I won't say it will become, if you give into it, it will potentially become a habit. And then you might think, you know, start eating that ice cream on a daily basis or weekly. Every time you pass that shop, you want to have that same ice cream. So you're feeding what the master refers to as feeding the forces. Yeah, and those forces are within your DNA and also externally, because there's other forces that can also impact. Okay. Is it like possession? Similar to possession. I mean, possession just basically saying, you know, someone taking something. So if you give in to, for the lack of a better word, Dracula, yeah, and Dracula can only possess you or take over you or be in that driver's seat if you allow Dracula to come into your very being or to come into your house. So it's the same principle applies, but sometimes they're not working from the external to the internal. Sometimes they're working from the internal outwards. Okay, so they can affect you internally as well, you know, in the sense that they can inspire you. If you go and look up the word inspiration and you look at the word spire comes from the word spiritus, Okay, the word spiritos is also dealing with spirit beings, because those spirit beings have the ability to whisper into your heart. That's why they say some people's hearts are wax cold, or they're deaf, dumb, and blind. Not literally physically deaf, dumb, and blind, but they're deaf, dumb, and blind because certain spiritual forces can actually hinder their ability to grow and expand as a being. So yeah, it is similar to possession. You can also have walk-ins as well. But at times, if you know that who you're connected to, you can allow, okay, what affected negatively or positively, Wunmi? Or is it both? You want to know both?
Both.
Okay, right. So, like I said, it's in your decision making, because you have the will, okay, which is the faculty to decide, and the faculty to decide whether you're going to do something agreeable or disagreeable. You have that ability, that 1%, which allow you. It's like a pendulum. That pendulum is balanced, but then will shift it to either the left or the right, or positive or negative, or agreeable or disagreeable. So depending on what relative or spirit force, okay, inspires you or whispers into your chest or into your heart seat or into your mental state, okay, also depends on your mental faculty, because you could be having a bad day. Yeah, literally, like, just things ain't going right for you. And then from that, you get all pent up and angry. That's changing your energy, your frequency energy. So because it's changing your vibration, that particular entity, okay, who vibrates on that resonant frequency, it's easier for them now to take that driving seat. And if it's a negative or disagreeable or evil, if we get to that term, get to that realm of where it's just pure evil, then it could be a thing of having an argument when you get home with your partner, or it could be a thing of, worst case scenario, getting a crossbow and shooting somebody or stabbing somebody, like here on the news, where somebody goes and takes another person's life. So on the scale, there's a scale, obviously, of what this particular agreeable or disagreeable being will be able to do. Again, on the flip side, if you have an agreeable being who will give you and inspire you with positive thoughts or positive feelings towards somebody or towards something that you want to do. So again, you have to learn to be able to differentiate and discern that by looking and thinking to yourself, hold on, again, it's all about decluttering your mind, because once your mind's eye is decluttered, once you're applying those things like meditation and concentration and, drinking the water more frequently and taking walks in the park, all of these things are factors to helping your inner being. So when you do get a momentary thought of, I feel like I'm going to go and visit my grandmother, and then on your way going to visit your grandmother, you buy her a present, a bunch of flowers or something, or you bring her, you might call and say, you want me to do the shopping for you? That is an agreeable thought. That's a positive thought. You with me? So being that it's a positive thought, what positivity does, okay, when you get into realms of the mind and bringing prosperity to your existence, is that the more positive things that you do, okay, you get rewarded with prosperity, good things, good feelings, good wishes. It may not necessarily be money or financial, but it may be something where a job comes down the line, or you may get a client that might call you and say, you with me? Or you might get that all big lottery ticket winnings. Who knows? Do you know what I mean? But the fact is that you will be able to learn to differentiate between the two, because one part of it is that you'll feel uncomfortable if it's a disagreeable thought. If you're not inclined by nature, okay, to want to go and hurt somebody, that's not your nature. You're not inclined to hurt anyone. Then you know that if you receive a thought where you start thinking ill of that person, like, I wish they were dead, I really don't like them, and you think to yourself, that's not me. Yeah, that's not my nature. Then more than likely you're being you're being susceptible, you're opening yourself up to allow another being to influence your thinking. You with me? So I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Sure.
Okay. Tauta.
Could I?
Yeah, go ahead. Any other question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Zamal. Just sort of to recap, because this is where I got.
So you're breaking, you're coming in and out.
Okay, this is where just to recap, you know when we say, I think we've covered it, but you know when we say you got your DNA and you've got your RNA and the spiritual, for like what you're giving an example of, you know, you may have a family. How can I put it? No, let's put it this way. You know, you may sort of behave and act like a relative, and that's because you share DNA. But specific to the RNA, we say that it holds the spiritual side of you.
That's right, yeah.
But how is that there? Did you say that's through, no, yeah, how is it there? How do you prove it's there? How do you break that down to someone that that's where it is?
Okay. The RNA, okay, is a transcribing part of your DNA. Okay, so what it does, okay, you got your DNA, which actually it doesn't leave the nucleus. So when you look at a cell, okay, or an egg, for the lack of better, if you look at an egg, you have the yolk, then you got the albumin, or what is known as the white or clear part, and then you have the shell, right? Okay, and then obviously beyond that, in the human realm or animal realm, you have the mental. Okay, so the soul, if you look at the DNA as being the soul, which is like the instructor, you with me? And what happens is the soul, it doesn't really leave its domain. So you liken that to the DNA. The DNA, what happens is when there's an instruction to be made, it will then, when you go into the realms of microbiology, it will unfold. That's what happens. So the only way they're able to test that DNA actually exists, they'll put a dye. And that dye, when the DNA starts to unfold within the nucleus of the cell, it will then, what is known as transcribe. Okay? So the transcription is what is then given to the RNA, an instruction code. Are you following?
Sure.
Yeah. So the DNA is likened to the soul, and the RNA is likened onto the spirit, because the soul has an impression on the spirit.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Sure, as well.
Okay. And then obviously the spirit would then will rewrite, because what essentially the spirit does is it records everything in its external environment. That's the RNA.
Right.
That's what your spirit does. Your spirit records things, okay, and then it encodes it in a way which is then stored within your soul. That's why many people have these impressions of past lives and things like that. And then what happens is the soul will then lock that into the memory vault, where it's known as the mental reservoir. Are you following?
Sure, as well.
Yeah. And then from that, your etheric being, because this mental reservoir is in like multiple compartments. Yeah, multiple compartments. So the best way to see it is, if you're familiar with computers for a second, maybe I might lose you, but you got a hard drive, right, in a computer. And the hard drive has multiple sectors. So the hard drive, imagine or picture that as your mental. Okay? And within the mental, there are multiple compartments. Just like the hard drive has multiple sectors. Yeah? And what essentially your etheric being has the ability to do is that once you're able to make that connection by way of soul to your etheric portion of you, you're able to access certain memories within that mental.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Sure.
And this is why the reason why they want us, they don't want us to unify. They don't want us to be able to recognize these abilities as, you know, within the society that we live in, or as we call it, the, you know, mukasu, or the six ether forces, because they know that once we make that connection with our etheric selves and to the oversoul, once we expand that etheric cord, which the master has said has collapsed. See, that etheric cord that's collapsed is that channel between this world and the etheric world. And you get an influx or inflow of messages, and that those messages come by way of that into your divine being, your soul, and your soul will then give you the necessary instructions in this life to live a better, more rewarding life positively. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the DNA is likened onto the soul, and the RNA is likened onto the spirit.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, Zamal.
That's beautiful. Yes, my brother. Could you use the mic, please? Come up to the mic. Oh, I think you have to switch it on. Yeah.
Could you give the definition of RNA and DNA?
Okay. Could you just speak up, but just a bit more? Could you hear on Clubhouse? I just want to be to hear on Clubhouse. Give the definition of DNA and RNA. Okay, what in the sense of what it means, or what it does?
Yes.
What I mean, okay. Okay, right. So you have DNA. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, okay, or deoxynucleic acid. So this particular DNA, what DNA does is that it's a set of instructions formed by your genes, okay, right? And then you have your RNA. Your RNA stands for ribonucleic acid. So they're both made of sugars because of the word ribo in there. Ribose is a form of sugar, okay? And they both have certain units, components that they're made up of, okay? So, phosphate is one of them, etc. And they form into bundles. They form into components. And those components, from what they refer to as base pairs, those base pairs, I might as well show you on here, and then you probably get a picture as well. So DNA. And then I'll be able to explain it with pictures. So sometimes trying to see in your mind's eye. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so you see what's going on? Yeah, on the right hand side. Okay, so DNA versus RNA, yeah? So one, as you can say, is a singular pair and one's a double. Okay, so these are made up of, as you can see, the elements hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, etc. Right? And when these particular rings, they form a ring, and when they combine together, they create a sugar. So when you get like what's the word, honey, for instance, honey is made up of ribose, etc., etc. These different type of sugars, sucrose, anything with O's at the end of it means it's denoting that it's a sugar. Yeah, and then you have on the right hand side, you have ribonucleic acid, and again It's a singular one, but from, can I move it up? Okay, so from, as you can see, the creation of these two pairs, the DNA and the RNA, are something called base pairs, right? So those base pairs or nuclear bases is what forms your DNA and your RNA. And those base pairs, they're known as, they form little strings, okay? And they're referred to as nucleotides. So you got the nuclear base, okay? That nucleotide, it strings together to form a gene. You with me? Yeah? And that gene, as you can see, because of the way DNA works, is that it has to bend in a particular form, in a particular structure based on the ladder. Yeah, the two that are combined together, the base pairs. See the base pairs there? Yeah. So the base pairs are forming together to create a ladder. And then you have what they refer to as the guanine, the tyrosine, the cysteine, and the other one, lutein. Yeah. All the enes, basically, yeah. All right. So these are forming into DNA in your system. And with that, it's all within the nucleus of your cell. Does that make sense? Okay. And from these, what I explained earlier about the DNA being the soul, is that it's synonymous in the sense of what it does. Yeah, how it provides instructions. You with me? It's the source, just like your soul is the source. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay. Yes, my brother. Yeah. Rahubat.
The COVID vaccination.
Yeah.
Could you say anything about how that connects with what's going on here with the DNA?
I definitely can explain that. It's from the Bridge to Salvation. Have I got that book? Something bad with me today. Right. Is there one upstairs? Can you check? Yeah. So within the Bridge to Salvation, the Master explains that, for those who don't know, the Bridge to Salvation is a book that was authored by Partner Babian and Dr. Malachi Kobinazid York, explaining that our children, that's another affirmation that I'll read here. In fact, I'll read it first and then it'll probably make more sense. No, it's not there. Okay, let me read this caption from the 9 and then I'll link it into what you've asked, yeah? So it says, Akhlos pa mukhradu, save the ones who are children. My beloved Nawapians family and tribe who announce they are of the family and tribe. Stop and desist from thinking about yourselves and think about the children of Wu Nawap. Think about their fate in order to arrive to their future lives. Like all others, they now have their own language, Nawapik or Hispatia. Like all others, they now have their own religion, Wu Nawap. Like all others, they now have their own dance and their own music. Like all others, they now have their own way of life. Like all others, they now have their own dress. Like all others, tribes, they had their own city, Tamaray. All this was given restored from Baba Yanun for all, but put the children first, save the children. Okay, so that's what the book is about, basically the Bridge to Salvation. So within the context of that book, the Master explains that the COVID virus, okay, it's a virus that is self-thinking, self-replicating. And it was purposely designed to reconfigure the DNA matrix of the Mukasu, the Caucasian race, the 6 ether beings. And it's so that it eliminates their progression and it eventually get them to be fade out of existence. So that's what the actual COVID virus was designed for. Obviously, there's different variants of it now, but the main one, that's what it was for. It was to actually change their DNA structure. Okay. Now, the reason why I pointed out the bridge to salvation and our children is because our children, if we don't raise them in the right environment, in the right context, and in the right culture, they're going to be susceptible to this future on down the line, because we haven't taught them any way of how to protect themselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it's imperative that we teach our children. It's imperative that we raise them in a culture that they will know their DNA so they can protect their DNA. You know, because what's going to happen is they're the ones that are going to vouch for us, in the sense that when we transition to the next life or to the next abode, just like what we're doing now with our ancestors, and we're calling on them, they will have in them a ritual and a way of practice where they can make a stronger bond and a stronger link. Yeah. So our salvation is in them, in the sense that we raise them right, we teach them right, we show them a culture that's, you know, prospers and works, then they'll be able to save us, because then we'll be able to make that journey back to the realms that we're supposed to go to. It makes it easier. It's an easier transition. So that's what that bridge is symbolic of, that transition, that pathway back to the all, or Papaot. Yeah. Any other questions?
One quick question.
Sure.
Unless I misunderstood what you just said, you said the COVID was designed to rewrite the DNA of the Caucasian race to take them out. Is that what you said?
That's correct. If I had the book, I would be able to read the full entire context to you, but go ahead.
Wasn't COVID designed or experimented on by both the Caucasians and the Asians? So why would they make something to take themselves out?
I'm glad you asked. Who's asking that question?
Nima on Zoom.
Okay. Rahubat Zamalta. Okay, good question. Now, Partner Babianun has always explained to us that we have to move away from the Caucasian race, right? We have to stay out their way, because there's things that are going to afflict them, and if we're going to be in their firing range if we don't move out the way. So when he explained about the COVID virus being a weapon, a biological weapon to remove them, is because that's exactly what the extraterrestrials planned. Their makers planned this. And then what they were able to do was they were able to influence their hybrid children who reside on this planet, okay, to make that virus and produce it in order to then infect the planet. Does that make sense?
Okay, so you were saying that the hybrids, which would be the ETs and humans combined, designed the COVID so that the strictly humans will be taken out.
That's right. Now, what the masters explain is that it will change their genes, okay, and get them to regress back to how they used to be, okay? And also at the same time, it will unravel their telomeres. You know what the telomeres are, right?
I have an idea.
Okay, the telomeres is essentially what makes your life or your genes longer, sorry, for you to live longer, okay? Because every time your cell dies, your telomeres get shorter. So it replicates to the point where it can no longer replicate any longer, because the telomeres that Mukasu have is not as strong as that of a Nagaru or a Dravadu, or Asian, you know, or of the Asian race. So they were designed, if you understand that they were designed to be a workforce for the Anunnaki and also for the Pleiadians as food. And they had a time span where they'll be obliterated or removed off the planet after 6,000 years. So they had a time span from the year 3,000 and odd. down to the year 2000 and odd. So 4000 BCE, roughly, approximately, to the year 2000 AD, approximately. Okay, on to 2030, where they, as a race, will start to die out. And you can see that because of the mere fact that they're not producing as many children in their population as has been now mentioned in the news, that the birth ratio of any population or any race is 2.1 children. That's what they refer to, 2.1 children. Their birth rate now has dropped from 2.1. I think you can find in an Italian, wasn't it? You mentioned it to me, Zamal? The Italian newspaper, wasn't it? They were talking about the birth rate is dropping. Anyway, yeah, but you can research this. So from 2.1 to 1.2 or 1.4, essentially, they will not be able to catch up, you know, and this is the demise of that. That's one aspect. But the other one was to accelerate their removal with the COVID virus. Reason being is that they have failed in their test. And their test was to have dominion over the planet and look after the planet and not treat the children of the Nataru the way that we've been treated. Yeah, but due to their nature and who they've mixed in with, they have done the total opposite. They've destroyed the planet. Yeah, they haven't been the proper caretakers that they was designed to be. You know, no fault of their own, because beings have stepped in and then they were mixed in with, you know, other creatures. So their mental state and their capacity to understand things is not like that of the Nagaru or other races on the planet. However, it is what it is, and their time is up. So by the year 6000, they be removed off the planet on toward the year 2030. And I think the master wrote up to 2060, but don't quote me on that. I can research and get back to you. But yeah, so essentially the COVID virus, that was what it was created for, to reconfigure their DNA and to shorten their telomeres until they genetically fade away, or they destroy themselves through the wars. As you can see, Israel and all of these, and Ukraine, and this is all part of the buildup to removing them off the planet.
Okay, so if we say, or you say that they were created as a workhorse and food, and then they are removed, who then becomes a workhorse and the food?
Right, that's a good question. That's a very, very good question. The hybrids of them. So what do I mean by hybrids? There's a concentrated effort now to mix their genes back in with other races. So if you notice, the master put in the Man from Planet Risk book, the Neutrinoid Race. Do you remember that book at all?
No, I don't know the book now.
Okay. There's a book referred to as the Man from Planet Risk. Is that upstairs? Okay, don't worry about it. I think it's here. Hold on, let me try and find it in one of my studies. Tour. If it's not there, I'll just explain it briefly. But I'll try and find. Are you based? Where are you based?
I'm in Canada.
You're in Canada. So if you were to join our group on WhatsApp group, then I'll be able to post the information that you need. But essentially, not to digress, the Man from Planet Risk book go to explain about the neutrinoid race. And the neutrinoid race, what they have been created by the Mukasu, or the Caucasian race, in order for them to be the replacement. That is what they've done. Because they know that they were food, but they said, if we are able to produce enough hybrids and also enough people who eat the food that we give them, i.e. the pork, i.e. the beef burgers, i.e. the cheese, all these different foods that will make them palatable to these extraterrestrials, then will you leave us alone? And the extraterrestrials is like, yeah, sure, because we want to eat food. So they've made an agreement with these extraterrestrials that if they're able to get X amount of human entities, that's why this planet is a farm, because beings are being bred for food for some of these extraterrestrials. So the hybrid race or the neutrinoid race, which you can't tell what race they are, you with me? Sometimes they may look Asian, but then they've got Chinese eyes, or they've got broad nose and full lips like an African person. So they have different variations and phenotypes, which is hard to distinguish what race they are. So this is the neutrinoid race. And it was a concentrated an agenda to produce these hybrids, so that they could be the replacement for the Mukasu. However, in saying that, it's still too late for the Mukasu because of what they've done, the atrocities that they've done on the planet to the Nagaru or the African race, and to other races, you know what I mean, that are on the planet, and also to the planet itself. You know, let's forget even us. If you just look at what the devastation that they've done to the planet, you know, oil spills, landmines exploding, you know, digging the earth for minerals and polluting the sea and creating plastics and which don't decompose, you know, which take thousands of years. All of these are pollutants to the planet. So Mother Nature herself has said enough is enough. And Mother Nature herself has created viruses, you with me, in order to eradicate not just them, but eradicate anybody who's not in tune with her. So part of this cycle of transformation, part of this wu-sabat that we teach is essentially, how that happen? Put me in high spot like that. Essentially to get us to reconnect back with nature and to align ourselves with the natural tones of the planet and the universe, and also our ancestors. So what the master teacher has introduced through the language and also through the tones, he's explained to us that the F tone, which is the F note, okay, that is the note of the planet. And then you have the A note, which is the note of the body. And then you have the C note, which is the note of the cosmos or the universe. And so within the formulas that when you're reading wu-sabat and studying and speaking the language, you're actually using these tones. And you're actually creating a vibration and a resonance, which is linking you with nature, the universe, and also reattuning your body, because your body is a tuning fork. And what this body does, once it's attuned to the correct frequency and resonance, it actually can draw in certain energies that are outside of your existence that you cannot see with your naked eye. But these energies can be drawn into your body and actually heal your body and also activate certain hidden powers that you have. So this is the science that the master teacher has taken us to.
Sorry,
Okay, my last question. So I don't want to hog the time.
No, you can hog until somebody, seriously, this is what it's about. The whole point of our classes is to get your questions answered.
So, if the Caucasians were created 6,000 years ago, and the Negroid race was here beforehand, why would the higher-ups, let's just use higher-ups, give the meaning of the planet to babies, to newcomers?
Very good question. Very, very good question. There's something called cycles. So just like winter can't invade into spring, just like spring can't invade into summer, and just like summer can't invade into winter, they slowly fade out of existence. You with me? It's the same principle with human beings and animals. Yeah, there are cycles. So our cycle is thousands of years, like millions of years. So it takes up to 17,250,000 years, approximately 18 million years, for us to start fading and losing our properties and losing our true natural nature. And then it goes into another phase. This is referred to as nine ether. Then when it goes into the realms of the 17 million thousand years approximately, that goes into known as six ether. That's when six ether starts to manifest and to be born on in this realm or in this universe. So that's when like poisons and other sicknesses start to invade and encroach because the universe is starting to die. So you have the universe, which has a cycle. You have the planet that has a cycle. You have human beings that have a cycle, and you have Mother Nature that has a cycle. And these are all working, you know, in sync with each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And eventually, by the 6,000 years of the moon cycle, this particular being then manifested. And I'll read from a Patarak. I was actually reading that today, so it kind of like leans into that. So this Patarak is called, it's called 6 Force Spirit Force. Okay.
6 Force Spirit Force?
6 Force Spirit Force.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll read from, well, essentially you can read, I mean, if you're able to ever get it, you can read the whole book, but it goes into more detail as the question that you asked. Right, so it says 6 Force Spirit Force is Patarak. Lekum. Lekum means for you all, yeah? Mara Nuwapu Kharadu, beloved Nuwapian children. Let me inform you of information on Pa Dravadu, which is your Asian or the Indians. That's the original name for the Dravidians, because the Dravidians were dark skinned, very, very dark skinned, and they had straight hair, or what we refer to as fur. Okay. Pa Kananu, Wu Pa Kaanu. So that's the Canaanites and the Canaanites, your biblical names for them. All right. We Nagaru birthed you, Nagaru Negroids, and you, Nagaru, birthed Pa Dravadu, Dravidians. Your own image, yet as 8 etheric beings. They were born in Southeast Asia, called the Asiatic black man, dark-skinned, yet weaker genes resulted in them not having hair thick, yet rather fur thin. And they birthed Kakasu, Caucasoid, in their own image. Yet as 6 etheric beings, they were grafted with transparent skin, being even weaker genetically, which resulted in not having lawan, color in their thin farah fur, or color in the purpurea of their ayantui, which is their eyes. Okay, so this is what took place. Then 4000 BCE is when the apex of their race manifested. Okay, and this is your story that you read in the book of Genesis about Canaan, or Canaan being cursed with the curse of leprosy. So your biblical story is a rewritten story about the creation of your Adamite or Caucasian or Canaanites and Canaanites and Canaanites. So these were different tribes and different like what's the word, species of them. Just like you have 9 species of Nagaru, you have 8 species of Dravadu or Indians, and you have certain species, like 3 species of the Mongoloid race. So you have different species, and within each species, there's subcategories. Okay, so I hope you're following so far.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then just jump into, right. So the moon cycle birthed, so yeah, each 6,000 years on Earth, or 24,000 years. You have the moon cycle, the sun cycle, moon cycle, and sun cycle. Okay? Right. Sexual forces, jump into verse 85. Sexual forces for reproduction were cast from the sun 18 million years ago, or 17,250,000 years ago. So this is known as the evolutionary cycle. Okay? The moon cycle is the climax of the evolutionary cycle. So when you talk about the apex of the Canaanites, that's the manifestation of your Caucasian race, okay, that were bred, okay, and that was 6,000 years ago. But the beginning of them is when they were removed from the galactical order because of the same kind of devilishment that was happening in the galactical heavens. You with me? On other various star systems. So they were actually removed. And this is what they were cast out. And when they were cast out, they incarnated the spiritual essence of them incarnated into your Hindus, and from your Hindus, because you're dealing with gases and formulas. So each formula will birth a different being. And the formula for the Nagaru or African is 9 ether formula. And then you have 6 ether formula, which will birth the Dravidian. And then you have the 3 ether formula, which will birth the Caucasian. So there's different formulas, just like how when you look on the DNA that we put up the explanation of the DNA, showing you that you have, what is it now? I don't know, why has it stopped sharing? Share screen. Okay, right. So it shows you that you got base pairs and certain way the DNA is strung together. So depending on how they string together, the formula changes. And likewise with the etheric formula or the spiritual formula, that also changes. Okay, so there's less, it's less potent. And the less potency means it produces a different type of seed or race of beings. And this is what took place. And this was done by their creators, the Pleiadians and the Anunnaki. Okay?
Okay, so you said they were kicked out of the galactic
Heavens.
I guess let's say heavens first. Would that be what the Bible refers to as the war between God and the devil got kicked out?
Bingo. Exactly. Exactly. This is your revelations, because what revelations is are stories that predate the Bible that have been then rewritten in I'll just put like a fairy tale type of way. You with me? Or a kindergarten kind of way, you know, more suitable, more palatable for the children, their children. Because if they were to tell them, well, when this Christ character who's gonna come back, who's vested in gold and sorry, in white, and he has blood splattered all over him, and he's devouring and killing, well, that's your Christ that's gonna come back. It's not very palatable to it, but if you say, oh, Jesus is going to come back, this Christ figure is going to come back and he's going to wipe up everybody and take everybody up into heaven, and he's going to, you know, there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth, and the crystal city is going to come. It sounds lovely. It sounds like a lovely storybook that you tell a child that goes to bed at night. But the reality is, that's not what's going to take place. These beings, some of them are meat eaters or cannibalistic. And they are coming to devour. That's what it says in Revelations. It says, and they'll eat the flesh of kings, the flesh of men, the flesh of this. Is actually telling you that's what it's going to do. And this particular being that's vested in white and has blood splattered over them, that's a being known as Nana. Yeah, Nana. Or another name for him is sin. Okay? And this Nana is your Christ that's coming back. Okay, and his job is to remove those beings that did not listen to their creators, because they were given certain specific instructions. This is where you get the word Leviathan, sorry, the laws from. So when you're looking at the Torah and it says these are the Levitical laws, when we take it back into the word Levitical, you're looking at the word Levi, yeah? And Levi was, into the Hebrew, you have the word Lawi, okay? And the word Lawi translates to mean to bind, and where are we now? Get the right exact meaning for you. Okay. Monster, so Leviathan or Lawitanan means monster, or to attach or to join. Yeah, so the breakdown, the master is breaking down in his book. So you got the word Lawitanan or Leviathan, and Levi means to attach or join onto the Tanin, and the word Tanin means to the dragon or to the jackal. Yeah, and that dragon, as you know already, it says, and the dragon was the one that fought in the heavens. Okay, so this particular dragon that fought Michael, okay, are the Leviathans, and their leader was known as Nana. So there's the same beings that are coming back, like I said, but because it's written in a nice, lovely, palatable way for the children of the Adamites, they believe through their religions that they have a savior coming back for them, and that's not the case. Okay, so
Okay.
I hope that makes it very clear.
Yeah, it does. I guess I would try to tie that back to Cain and Abel then.
In what way, Zamalta?
Because Cain's offering was rejected, but it was fruits and stuff, right? But Abel's was livestock.
That's right,
So,
exactly. So that livestock, when you read the language that is revealed in, okay, it uses the word san, which means sheep, okay? So that livestock that Abel was actually the shepherd for, it was actually human beings.
what?
Your whole story, your biblical story, okay, is talking about human beings that were being gathered. Remember I said earlier that this is a farm. Certain human beings were created for food. So Abel was keeping the flock. That flock is talking about livestock, which are human beings, food for the gods.
Okay, so
Now your story that you're reading in the Bible about Cain bringing his vegetables, etc., was a test. It was a test to see what nature they were. Because once Cain gave his offering and it was rejected, why would a God who is supposedly non-carnivorous or whatever be upset that vegetables were given?
no, yeah, I never understood that. It never made sense.
Yeah, it never made sense. Exactly. Why would, he smelt the sweet savor? This is talking about me smelling barbecue or barbecue ribs when I'm walking past someone's garden having a barbecue. Thinking, that smell will taste good, and your mouth starts to water. So you're dealing with carnivorous, cannibalistic extraterrestrials, some of them, and then some of them were interested in the nature, the agreeable nature of some of these beings. So you had actually two factions going on. You had the disagreeable faction who were interested in the flesh part and the food part, and that these beings were not worthy to have any connection with the extraterrestrials. This is where you find your story in your Bible about Adam and Eve, and when they ate the apple and then her eyes were open to know good from evil, is to know the agreeable ones from the disagreeable ones who were extraterrestrials. They'll be able to discern from who's who. And they didn't want them to know that. Do you understand? So then Cain and Abel, Cain being a product, he wasn't a product of Adam. He was a product of a being known as Nana. Okay, so he was actually, Nana was his father. So when you read the word where it says sin lieth at the door, the word sin, when you take it back, means sacrifice. Yeah, it means sacrifice. And that's the name of Nana. Nana was the person that was the father of Cain. So this is the revelations that the Master's given us.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. I hope you go do some more research, and you know, any other questions that may confuse you. I hope I haven't confused you. I hope
No, you haven't.
Okay, right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions? So we've gone all over the place. We talk about DNA, we talk about mind, we talk about spirit forces.
Well, if
Anything?
no other questions, I have another one. And if
Yeah,
nobody has any questions,
it might stimulate people in the audience, so it's good to ask your questions, seriously.
okay, so I heard a different brother talking about wu-sabat and stuff was his video.
Okay.
And he mentioned that we as Negroid people, I think he said we have like 20, maybe 24,000 cycles to get it right, something like that. And after that, if we don't, we dissipate. But if we're energy, how do we dissipate?
We'll break up into we are energy. Energy, that's no problem. But what happens is energy, once it has consciousness, okay, because that's okay. Let's explain something. We only know of consciousness on this physical realm. Yeah. Like if you and I were to touch, then we know that we're alive. Okay. Or if we were sitting in an environment and we felt the heat, okay, we know that there's the humidity of the room has increased, the temperature has increased. So that's our awareness, that's the consciousness. Yeah. Now that's your physical awareness, but there's also your spiritual and your mental awareness. You with me? And this is the energy aspect of you. So the energy aspect of you is known as your soul, your ba'ah, okay, and your ra'ah. There's two types of souls. One is the breath that you breathe, ra'ah, and then you have the ba'ah, which is the conscious being. So this conscious being, what its job is to do, the title of this one, the topic that I wanted to discuss was, is this a test? Yeah, is this a test? Are you in this realm, this existence, as a test? And yes, you are, because your test is to find out who you are, to work your way back to your true existence. So what's taken place is that when you were given the 24,000 genomes, which is linked to the planet Earth, your job is to master your being, is to master yourself, is to know your being, who know who you are, know your ancestors, know your language, yeah, know the types of things that you can produce within your own genetic makeup, in the sense of you have the ability to fly, you have the ability to communicate mental, have mental telepathy, you have the ability to speak different languages, you have the ability to incarnate extraterrestrials or speak to them. These are your abilities. So our existence was to master these things. So within the realm of this abode that we live in, you have 24,000, or should I say 24 to 24,000 cycles to perfect your being. Does that make sense?
It makes sense up to a point.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying. But
let me continue. So I just wanted to get there so that I know that makes sense. And then what's taken place is because we don't make the grade on our first incarnation, we have to redo it again in another body. Okay? And then what happens is, as you go through your cycles and you get to the 24,000 cycle, because your soul has not learned what it's supposed to learn, the composition and the energy of your soul will break up into and disseminate back into all.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So
Yeah.
then in this lifetime, I'm here now as Nima.
That's right.
Let's say I live for 80 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start over.
Mm-hmm.
But when I start over, I don't even remember that I was Nima. So am I carrying something to help me move on to grade 2?
Bingo. Yes, you are. You're carrying DNA. Because the whole reason why this is called a genetic doctrine is because within your genes, you have memories. Within your DNA, you have memory. And the job of the master teacher is to activate your memories. It's to get you to remember who you are, what you are, how you got here, why you got here, what you're supposed to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
but isn't my DNA part of my body which dies?
no, your DNA.
It's the soul, you said.
No, your DNA is linked to soul. Your DNA actually isn't a physical material thing in that sense. Your DNA is made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of energy. Do you understand?
So my spirit would leave this physical body.
That's right.
Go into another body, taking the DNA and everything I learned with it.
That's right. Exactly. However, because you're coming into a new cycle, you're kind of like resetting yourself, because what's going to happen is, if you remember your past life, you're going to try and reach that past life. You're going to see trying to do things in that past life, and you're going to get stuck. It's like a bit like a record. The cycles are interwoven. So when you're playing a record, like just like, when you got like the old vinyls, okay? If your vinyl is scratched in any part, what happens to the vinyl?
It doesn't play well.
I'm assuming you're that age where you know about vinyl.
I've heard about it. Yes.
Could we compact disc? Could be, MP3 now. So with that vinyl, it, like you said, it gets stuck, or it scratches, or it skips. You with me? So you're in a perpetual skipping loop. If you're trying to catch up with yourself because you're remembering your past life and trying to correct yourself. They refer to it in a movie called The Butterfly Effect. Yeah, where you're trying to change your destination or your fate, and it keeps it's not going right. You with me? So essentially what is done is your cycle, your disc is reset in a way so that you have the ability to associate and move in this realm as a new being. However, you're able to access the memories that will then propel you to do the right things. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So all of this past life regression and all that stuff sounds like it's not such a good idea. Am I right about that?
No, not really, no, because then you might activate certain things, certain traumas, and that's another aspect of it. Because when you go into those regressions and you're giving yourself willingly to that, you might access certain traumas, and those traumas might have having a mental effect on you. Because what you have to, I'm going to explain something. You see, when we're in our mother's womb, okay, we're connected to her by her umbilical cord. Yeah? So that umbilical cord, it nurtures us, it feeds us the nutrients, but at the same time, we're also connected to our mother. And our mother and her feelings and what she goes through also affects you. What am I leading to? What I'm explaining is that just like we are in this realm now existing, there's our spiritual ancestors are also feeding us and providing us that love and energy and care that we're not even aware of. Are you following?
I'm following.
And if we then decide to harm ourselves in any shape or form, guess what happens to them? It affects them. Do you understand? So just like a baby is affected when a mother goes through her mental state or her emotional state and arguments with her partner and all of these things, it affects the baby. Likewise, it also affects our ancestors when we do the things that we do to ourselves, you know, whether it's through accidental or through done intentionally. You get what I'm saying? Some people go and tattoo their bodies, some people go and do bungee jumping, some people go and do all kinds of stuff. And then there's also the positives, don't get me wrong. There's also the chanting, the meditating, the spiritual aspects, the positive spiritual aspects, which will link into them. And in turn, they'll be able to feed you the necessary nutrients, spiritual nutrients that you need in order to become stronger. Because your journey is not here. Your journey starts when you transition. That's why they say life after death. You see what I'm saying? Yeah? Yes, my brother.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, my sister. Robert.
Are you saying then recalibration of the DNA? Recalibrate your DNA?
From which part were you? Every part.
Like,
oh, okay.
Basic DNA recalibrates itself to taking the wu-sabat.
Sure.
Yeah. With that recalibration, would that be basically your total recall effect?
Yeah, that's pretty much
total recall, because you remember what you are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Your total recall. So just elaborate a little bit more. So yeah, what the brother's asking is that with this information, because it's a genetic memory, activation, nothing is actually forgotten. You're just asleep. Yeah, you're in a state of amnesia. And as I've always given an analogy, is that if somebody has amnesia and they wake up, okay, or they have a what's it called, become concussed, and they, just for a week or two even, that they lose memory of who they are, their long-term memory or short-term memory goes. There are certain things that people, doctors will do. It's either they get them to play music that they're normally familiar with. They'll get them to look at pictures of their family. They'll get certain foods and certain smells that will help regrow that portion of the brain. So it's similar to what the master teacher wu-sabat is doing, is that it's helping you to reactivate those memories that are dormant. Yeah, your genes, your DNA is just dormant and needs to be reactivated and reawoken. Okay? Yes.
Robert
as well.
Just going back to what you said a moment ago about when the sister asked about past life regression. Is one of the reasons why you shouldn't do that is because you said certain traumas. Could you start to remember, say in one of your past lives you were murdered? Could you actually remember that instant?
It's quite possible.
Or if you were a murderer,
yeah,
could it really re-trigger you to being a murderer in this life?
It's quite possible, because what you're dealing with, the mind is not a linear tool or energy field. Yeah, your mind is an expanding field. You with me? And it's a field where you've planted, you've sown the seeds of memories. Yeah. So because it's all interconnected and interwoven with each other, being that you trigger something in your mental sphere or your mental field, it has a knock-on effect on other things. Yeah. For example, so give an example of a field or a garden, right? If you got plants in that garden and you put pesticide, okay, it's not just going to affect that one plant. You with me? It will spread. Yeah, and it's likewise the same thing with the mind and the way it works, because it's all interconnected. You with me? And there's levels of it. Okay, so yeah, it's quite possible that could happen.
Greetings or greetings.
The question I have.
I think the mic is it off, or maybe it's your height.
Okay, yes. He mentioned about ancestors. It's more than one question, but hopefully from when I say it, we'll answer it all. So where is the ancestral realm?
Okay.
And when one passes, if one completes mission, do we go to the ancestral realm, or is it somewhere else? And why do we get answers from the ancestors and not from the source? So I don't know if what I'm from me answering this question.
It is quite a few, but feel free to, if I lose you in any way, I don't answer, then just repeat. Yeah.
Okay.
So question number one, where's the ancestral realm? Okay. So know this, that when we say our affirmation to our ancestors, we say Pa Salafu, okay, which means our immediate relatives. Okay. Then we go to Pa Nasabu, beg your pardon. Pa Nasabu is your immediate relatives. Pa Salafu are your ones that are a bit more further, like your great-grandfather, great-grandmother, etc. All right, those are your ancestors in that sense. Then you have Pa Nataru, which are your overseers. Okay, they're the ones that oversee this planet. Then you have Pa Marzaku, they're the watchers, the guardians. Yeah, they're the ones that they basically watch the universes. So you have different levels. You with me? Are you following so far?
And they're all our ancestors.
They're all your, and because your E3 being, the E3 part of you is connected to all the dimensions. Do you understand? Now, in order for you to, when you say the realm, it all depends on where they've elevated to. Yeah, in the sense that you have planes of existence. Okay.
How many would you say?
There are 9 planes of existence, and they're all interwoven and interconnected. What do I mean by that is, you see, like we're in this room right now, you're sitting on a chair, right?
Just question, you said 9 realms, all in ancestral.
No, there's 9 planes of existence. So you got a chair you're sitting on, that's more solid than you are, but it's still in this room. You have the light that's in this room. You see what I'm saying? That is allowing you to see. That's another state. But they're all in this room. So that's the plane. You see what I'm saying? So you're in one plane with different moves and schemes of different vibrations. So depending on what vibration they're on, they'll be in that particular existence. In that particular, do you follow? Yeah. And now with those existences have sub-levels. That's how the universe works. You see what I'm saying? There's multiple levels. It's not just one linear thing. You know what I mean? It's like a circle within circles within circles within circles, and they're all interconnected. You understand? So depending on plane 1, 2, 3, 4, if we give them numbers, yeah, up to 9, it will depend on your spiritual perfection. How much have you perfected your being, but also what connection you've made to your nasabu, your immediate relatives. So if you had a grandmother that you were highly connected to, in the sense of you knew her, you loved her, you know, you knew things about her, she was just your mind and soul, you know, everything about her was just beautiful about her, and you want to make that link with her. What the master said is, first form your altar, get your altar together, yeah? And in getting your altar together, you are able to then open that door, because that's a gateway now to her. And then you communicate with her, just like you communicate if she was on the phone somewhere around the planet. You pick up the phone and you say, "Hi, Granny, how you doing?" You speak to her in that way, sincerely, yeah? And what she will do, she'll work on your behalf to speak to the others. She's the doorway to them. Just you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's shown in the movie Coco. That's the master's giving us certain cartoon movies and things and movies to watch. One of them is Coco. Yeah, Coco, lovely movie. And in there it tells you how the grandmother she was the link back to the relatives on the other side, including his uncle or something. I can't remember, the uncle or grandpa, something like that. But in there, it will show you that they had a bridge, and every time their ancestors, so this is your next question, is how do you then make the connection with them? They can only come down so far. So every so often, hence 939, when we chant as Sabians, is that those are the times when the doorway is open.
939.
939, yeah. And we do the chant resonating all over the planet, okay, at the different times. So these energy portals open, and the incantation and invocation of them means that they draw near to you. You see what I'm saying? And when they draw near to you, they then, by way of the right tones, vibrations, sounds, and frequency, FAC, that we or the language that we speak, which is working on those modulations, F, A, and C, you are then able to make the connection with them. And then whatever you sincerely ask of them, in your mind's eye, they can also see in your mind's eye. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Because the reason why they can't, or they find it difficult, it's difficult for them to help you, is because we cut off our mind's eye from them. How have we done that? Because most of us are indoctrinated in other people's things. You with me? So they no longer have that connection, the interface that they're supposed to have with you is being cut off. So once you regain the connection, you're able to then speak to them, and they can see through your mind's eye into this realm. Yeah? And then they can then guide you and say, do this, do that. And you being in a meditative, relaxing state, it helps. So one of the things that we implore people to do before you get into meditation, learn how to relax. Yeah, because you got the monkey chatter that goes on when you're trying to relax. It's, you got this going on, and oh, what's the dishes now? I'll go put the thing on. Oh, I'll go pick up the, and then the monkey chatter starts. So to still the brain, and when it does happen where there is that monkey chatter, you let it pass by, and then come back. Just what I'm saying, and you do that on a periodic basis. If you're really serious about it, it depends on the individual. I've always done it for about 5 minutes, let go, come back to it, do it again. Because the more you're doing it, your body, your etheric being is getting conditioned, and then you're making a connection with that etheric being, which then has the link back to your oversoul, which are your grandparents, your parents, your ancestors, etc. You understand? Yeah. So it's a gradual process, but if we're all doing it, you know what I mean? Because we're all connected to that. What is called the morphic field. Morphic. The morphic field. Let me just bring that up. Yep. Morphic field. Yeah. Okay, so the morphic resonance is a theory proposing that memory is inherent in nature, with similar patterns influencing subsequent ones across time and space. Can you see that? Maybe it just bring it up a bit. Okay. Yeah, so morphic resonance and morphic fields. All right, this was by Rupert Sheldrake. The master said when researching, you can get his book. He's also got a talk on TED Talks and YouTube. All right, so it's a hypothesis. They always love the hypothesis and theories, but it's for us, it's a reality. Okay, so it literally is that. So Rupert Sheldrake explains that you have this going on where the morphogenetic fields are not, are not fixed forever, but evolve. Okay, so you have morphic fields for animals, human beings, plants. They all have their own fields. You have your own personal morphic field, and then you have your family, and then from your family you have your external family, and then it goes on and goes on and goes on. But like I said, it's all intertwined. So that's why as Sabians, when we try to practice our shop, etc., and not negative thoughts and feelings, is because we understand that when we think these thoughts, that's where it's going. It's going into the morphic field. And then what happens is our family, relatives, or people of the same race as us, they're also linked in. They may not know it, but they're linked in. And depending on what we do as Sabians or as people who are thinking on a positive level and doing things to help their race, it's all getting uploaded like a cloud, uploaded up into the cloud. And it's being recorded and stamped, time-stamped. So any one of us can link into that morphic field and draw from it what we need. And they showed you this example with some rats, as they do in laboratories, where they had a maze and had a food at the end of the maze. One rat was given the task to go and find this food. It found it. Then they removed the rat. Another generation of rats were made. They were put into the cage with different ways, and because they were linked into the morphic field, they remembered the route. Do you understand? Yeah. So you could be lost in a place, but if you were tapped into your ancestors, lost in the woods or whatever, you tapped into nature, nature will help you find a way out. Okay? And that's the same thing that we have with our ancestors.
What instinct? Is that a common word people might use?
I use the word intuition. Intuition. Yeah, that's your intuition. Listen to your intuition. Do you know what I mean? Is that silent voice? You know, don't do it this way. You know it when it comes. You know when something's agreeable to you and what you're supposed to do. And then obviously we push that aside and then we do the opposite. And it's as simple as even going to the shops to buy something. You know, you made your journey to the shop, and before you left, you say, I think I need to pick that up. And then you say, nah, I'm not gonna need it. Yeah? How many people has done that? And then you get to the shop, it's like, you come back, it's like, I should have bought that thing. That's your intuition. Your intuition, your etheric being, your inner being has told you what to do. So for me, as an example, when that intuition kicks in, I follow it, but then this is what I do. I say, thank you, ancestors, for giving me that. You see, the acknowledgement and the praise to them means you're opening up your gateway to allow them to work through you. Do you understand? Yeah? Okay. Here's my brother. Water. Sorry, before I go, did I answer anything?
No.
No, go ahead. Sorry, my brother.
I'm just trying to remember that question. So.
Okay, so we've done the ancestors, the ether, the realms, and how close they come to you to help you. What was the other one?
I think the other one was if once one completes their mission here,
okay,
do they go to the ancestral realm?
That's it.
Dependent on that level.
Yeah, depending on the level. Yeah, that's right. If you've worked and perfected, this is going back to what we were saying earlier. If you're sincere, okay, we're in here now, all of us, because something acted, the master teacher, or whether it was by way of someone teaching in class, or reading a book, or hearing his voice, somewhere in all of that mix, you heard his tone, you felt his resonance, and you said, that's for me. Yeah? So it's not a coincidence that you're in here. Someone in your DNA pool said, I've been waiting for this all my life. And they're using you to get you to help them. Because some of them are trapped. Well, when I read that, it made me think, wow, if we don't help them, they can't help us. So
how is it we're helping them if they're already past their flesh?
Their energy can get trapped.
So they can go on another level too.
They can go into, yep, they can go other levels.
Really internet.
Yes. Okay.
Rahubat Zamal, I just need to interrupt. There are many people on the
Oh,
clubhouse. So.
okay. Are there questions on there? You have a question? Sorry. Yeah, we've got clubhouse questions. Zamal, yeah. Is there any question on clubhouse? Yes, Ed. Rahubat, Ed. Sorry, I could just about hear you. That's why. Go ahead, my brother. Just about. Hold on a sec. Just lost you there. Oh, well done. Zamalta, you might have to come down. I think I'm just. Oh no, it's all right. Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead, Ed. I think I pressed the wrong button. Yeah.
In regards to the question, is it just relating to what we're talking about today, or is it overall?
It's an open question today, open question answer class today. So go ahead.
Okay. So I keep hearing the conversation about the agreeable versus the disagreeable. Do you have anything about setting the stage or the scene for where the original disagreement happened or whatever? And who are the players here?
I like your question. That's a very good question. Okay, when we're saying disagreeable, remember this is a mental state and energy. Okay, so what has been explained and the master teachers explained to us is that there were two types of energy that was created. We only give them those terms, agreeable and disagreeable, to kind of like understand it on our level. But essentially, you're dealing with energies. One energy was of the green light, and one energy was of the amber light. You with me? Right? So these particular energies were both born out of triple darkness. And then the energies split. So when the energies split, it became two types of natures. Okay? And those natures that was born out of that, the original one was 76 trillion years. That's how far back it goes. And then the 76 trillion years, through different countless cycles and different countless interactions and movements in galaxies and solar systems and birth of new ones and death of old ones, then it came down to this realm that we call the third dimension. And the third dimension is where you have the birth of agreeable and disagreeable forces. And so those agreeable and disagreeable forces, known as the amber and the green light, they exhibit certain traits. So the green light is obviously healing light. The amber light is more towards selfishness and being, disagreeable or tend to disagree. Not evil, but disagree in the sense that they will not always, come towards your way of thinking. You know what I mean? So they'll tend to disagree. That's what disagreeable means. Then you have those amongst the disagreeable that fell even lower to the point where they became evil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think I get that piece of it. How do masculine and feminine energy tie into these different lights of things?
Right. So when you're dealing with the gender aspect now, remember, spirit doesn't have gender. It's only on the physical realm that gender manifests itself. So they were genderless until the planes that they manifested on deemed them, by way of the forces of nature, deemed them that they had to have the sexual aspect. So originally, there were hermaphrodites and hermaphrodites that was born from the two forces, okay? Which split into, the Chinese call it yin and yang, which is the feminine force and the masculine force. So these were energy forces. But energy forces, depending on the plane of existence, have to have some physical manifestation. Do you follow?
Energy forces have to have a minute. So
yeah. So
this is different than spiritual energy, which doesn't have to have the physical method, which is without the physical.
So when you're dealing with physical now, physical in this realm is dealing with the aggregation of molecules, right? So molecules that are tightly bound together appear physical. You follow? But to an atom, a hydrogen atom and a hydrogen atom, that's also physical in their realm. So you're dealing with different states of frequency and vibration. You with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the third plane of existence, the physical plane, the condensing of molecules, which appear to look physical, is where we reside. So for us, the physical manifestation of forces of negative, or shall I say, positive and, no, sorry, masculine and feminine forces, the physical manifestation of that will be male and female, or the original being, which would have been a hermaphrodite and a hermaphrodite, because they contain both sexes within them. And this can be found, I don't know, obviously, I know you've been on here and I'm aware that you're just following on the master teacher's teachings. There's a book called Tahuti's Vision. Okay, Tahuti's Vision, which explains about the different genders and how they were originally hermaphrodites when they incarnated. And then for them to be able to do specific things on this planet, they had to then separate themselves into genders. So then that's when the birth of male and female came about. You with me? And the female was before the male. So the female existed thousands of years before the male actually came about. And you can, when you go and do your research on chromosomes and DNA, you find out that there's something called the SRY gene, which is found in the female and the male. And the only reason why the male becomes a male is because the SRY gene, it kicks in at the 12th week of gestation. Do you follow? So originally, all children or all fetuses were actually female anyway. And it's only because of that gene triggering in the Y chromosome, which is actually has less genetic material than the X chromosome, is why you have the female and the male in the first place anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I guess the other piece that I'm looking at with this is, because I'm trying to, like, I live in the Midwest, so I'm in the United States, so I'm working on a bunch of different things. I believe in that the universe supports us being harmonious, which is working together. We maximize productivity and all that different stuff through that. I'm working on trying to understand the biological differences between us at this point and understanding how we best, because if there's two pieces to this puzzle, we each have something to offer. It's not about being greater or less than, it's just about being purposeful and maximizing productivity.
That's right. You're talking about the male and female, yeah? That's what you're referring to?
Yes. As far as how, on this plane, I mean, obviously. Yeah. So just understanding from a biological standpoint, how we work.
Okay. Yeah.
Boys and girls, they're learning different, being kinetic learners versus growth, all that different stuff.
Of course. Yeah. You're 100%, you're leaning on the right frequency or question, because essentially that's what it is. The male and female gender, okay, as feminine and masculine in our race, when you look on the walls of ancient Egypt and other cultures in Africa, originally worked together as one being. Do you see what I'm saying? Because when you go into the origin, is that we actually are one being. It's just that from the different separation is what gave us the gender assignment. You with me? By way of what you call it, hormones. That's the only reason why we have gender assignments, because of hormones, and that's been triggered in the human brain, etc. But if it wasn't for that, we always acknowledge that in our rulership, that we are equal in the sense of that we both have something to put on the table, yeah, and work in cohesion with each other in order to have a what you call a strong cultural foundation, okay, and a rulership that will last the eons of time. So that we recognized. And the reason why we advocate that in wu-sabat is because, as you said, when males and females acknowledge their roles, their true roles, no one's better than another. Everyone has a part to play. And once we recognize that we're all one being, and we're able to then work off the left and right hemispheres of the brain, okay, things will work much better for us. When we put our females back on the pedestal, back in the stool of her position, which is that she's a ruler. By natural nature, she's a ruler. And being that we put her back in that position again, she will rule with us in harmony. Okay, so the economic, the social, all these different aspects that makes up a culture is because the two factions, male and female, as rulers, that's what we did. And it can be seen on the walls of ancient Africa and Egypt. You know, that's what we represented. You know, so yeah, that our existence though was way before that. And if I can find it in Tehutti's vision, I think I've got it here. I'll be able to read to you. Unfortunately, I cannot access it on here. Let me see if I can do that. Is it upstairs to his vision? Oh. Pretty sure it's upstairs. Ah, wonderful. Okay. Right, so I'm going to read from Tehutti's vision. Right, page 18. Okay. No. Read from page 17, verse 81. Right, so this is going into our ancient African teachings of how things were, the reality. Okay, so it starts off with earth. Earth was Geb, element, and Nut, the heavens element. So these are elemental beings, right? Which sends down water, and from 3 times 3 or triple darkness of her womb form 9 ether. So we're talking about here the existence of 9 ether, and that's what the female represents. Okay, so she's a physical and visible manifestation of the universe. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. They received their ba'a souls, and nature produced their bodies after the species and shapes and forms. Ashashtat and Min to Ha to Haptwi in the shape of Pata Atum of the Ba'a was made their Ka'a, and of their Ba'a their minds, partaken of mortality. So this is where, when you start reading about the ancient Egyptian theology, what they call theology, okay, which is really factology. But when you start reading, you read about the Ogdoads who resided in the waters. And then from that birthed a being known as Atum. Okay, and Atum masturbated himself and brought about existence. You with me? Keeping it very short and simple. But from that existence birthed the 9 Enneads, okay? Or the, what's the word? Zamal? No, Ogdoads, the Khamenu, isn't it? The Khamenu? No, Muhammad, yeah. They're the ones in the water. I forgot what the Enneads are called. Zabzitu, yeah? So these 9 were your children of the 8, okay? And this was made, this is where they received their spirit and their soul and their minds, partaken of mortality, yeah? So partaken of mortality continued in this state for the duration of a period of 1,000 years. So this is where they lost the ability to be supreme beings. They started living in this realm, and they started, how can I say, getting acclimatized to the environment. Okay, so they start becoming more mortal. Now, verse 82 goes, they reproduced themselves of the mother's DNA, for each was female and made twins at first, which was the first step of the physical separation of the hermaphrodite and the hermaphrodite. To separate the flesh does not alter the mind. You can force a change of thinking, but not alter the reality. So, you know, we got people now who are this transgender, you know, LGBT, and they say that they a female trapped in a male body, or the other way around, because there is their mind that's affecting the way they feel. So this is part of that ancient change that was taking place thousands of years ago, right? So it goes on to explain verse 83, but that at the end of the 1,000-year period, the knot of destiny was untied. The knot of destiny is basically talking about the DNA. Okay, the DNA was untied by the will of Panatharu, and the bond of all things was loosened. Females began to birth one child at a time, female or male, while others 2 females or 2 males, and in some strange cases, conjoined twins, and some, once separating the body, could not separate the mind or thinking. Females born in male bodies and males born in female bodies. Verse 85. In time, all living creatures, including mortals, which had been he or her hermaphroditical, were separated, the females being set apart by themselves and reduced from the mother goddess to subjected slaves to males, which makes no sense according to the dictates of reason, because the original chromosomes were XYX and YXY, and this is what was split. Then Natharu went further. Okay, I'm going to skip a few verses, okay, where it says, when Natharu had said this, with the aid of the Chabutu and harmony through the sexes together, making the mixture and establishing the generations, and all things were multiplied according to their kind. Right. That is the creation of the original root race, the being high, equal, perfect as all others, XX or YX or XY or XYX or YXY, even XXY and YXX, the 7 states of all being, all exist. All are equal is their own right as created, formed, fashioned, made, grown, and born. Okay, so this is what took place thousands of years ago. It was a gradual change, okay, from that original chromosome gender to what we now call male and female today. But essentially, well, it's one being. You there with us, Ed?
Yep, no, I got you.
Okay.
Thank you. So, okay, no, thank you for that.
You sure? Because if there's any more, then...
Well, it's not that. So one of the questions that came up a few weeks ago is, you know, why not kind of work? Why not, you know, move in a certain direction? There's so much information coming from so many different places. And the person starts in a traditional church, and then you figure out some stuff there, and you keep moving. It's like it's hard to kind of go on. It's not hard to go all in on stuff. You just have to really discern the information before, because there has to be a level of trust, not just in the information, but also in culture. True. Because I'm on the outside looking in right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know about politics and all the different things that are typically part of all this. So I'm just trying to put it all together and figure out what makes sense for me. But what I will say is that from an organic standpoint, without being tampered with at all, you know, with with the intention to deceive or anything like that. This is some of the most, I will say, pure information from my perspective that I've seen.
Okay.
Or that I've witnessed. So it makes me want to go back and start over. I'm just trying to make sure this is the last time that I do this.
No worries. Listen, all we say is praise be to Panatharu and praise be to the master teacher of the Panatharu for sending us the master teacher in this day and time. You see what I'm saying? To awaken all of us up. So yeah, appreciate that you're even listening and that you've come across wu-sabat. So yeah, keep coming and they all start to unravel and make sense. Or should I say come together, not unravel, come together. Okay, question?
I know we're short for time. Can I ask one last burning question?
Oh, it's up to the brother there. No, you. Yeah, end of, yeah, you. Yeah.
Okay. Kind of free fire.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If most of us here are half souls, what does that actually mean for us? Does it mean that it's more difficult for us to get back?
Get back to what?
Get back to the Natharu.
To the higher, okay.
Does that mean it's more difficult for us? And what does that mean about, what does that say for us?
Okay. Yes, half souls is more difficult because of the mixture. You with me? It's because when you're born in Afafre Ka'a, okay, remember you have the equator and you have Afafre Ka'a sitting literally connected, and the energies connected to the inner sun and the outer sun. Yeah, when you read the precession change, it explains about how the changing of the angles, okay, where it's going to come back to a right angle degree, and then it's going to link in with the inner sun, and then also the inner sun, the solar plexus, okay, and up to the outer sun, Shamash, okay. So those three suns, they're all linked in. Now, being that if you're born in Afafre Ka'a, because of the closeness to that and to the equator and to the potency of the ethers, okay, your soul will be much more of a higher state or more potent state. Being that 400 years of mixing and all of these things that have been indoctrinated with, it means that your soul has depleted. So you're half a soul. So the reason why it makes it difficult is because of the fact that you have multiple people on your phone line, you know, and you have to then start to eradicate those people that's on your contact line so they can make a direct connection with Panatharu. And in doing that is when you start to activate and open up your etheric cord. Because your etheric cord has, like the master explains, like a straw, and it's collapsed. So, you know, like I always say it like this, you know, like that Michelin figure. And it's like when it's got gas in it, it's all standing straight. Yeah. And when it starts to lose gas, it starts flopping all over the place. And it's like there's no enough gas in there. Well, imagine that gas being your etheric being, your ether, your potency, where it's strong enough and then abundant enough. Do you get what I'm saying? Where it's being able to make that connection easier, like you said. But because there's so many people on that telephone line, it makes it much more harder to have that connection. Yeah. That's essentially what it is. So in fact, what the master actually explained is that if you really want to strengthen because it might not be this generation, but if you really want to strengthen your next generation, it's better off to go back to Africa and getting yourself an African to mix with. That's what he said. Yeah. Okay. So Antarctica 4. So with that, unless there's any other okay. Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question? Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay, last question.
If we had, there's a few questions coming up. So it's down to our sister who's had a long day. Yeah, the store. So what is best that? How long have we got? It's okay. We got 3 questions. Is that right? Okay, 3 questions. Go on, my brother.
It's just relating to what you said about.
Oh, sorry, use your mic, please. Sorry.
It's just relating to about the gender.
Okay.
Because I heard a rumor that women came first, and after women, the men. But the men was a mutation. That's when you get the male. Now, I'm hearing now that there were certain roles that had to be made it easier, and that had to be done on this plane here. Hence, the reason why they're separate.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that in that book?
That's in the Studi's vision. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is another question.
So yeah, you're both right. The two questions correlate because there was an original and there was a purpose. You with me? Your purpose was to, as a male, was to look after and protect the female. That was our purpose. The female's purpose is to take care of the house and nourish. That's her purpose. You see what I'm saying? Somewhere,
that's now in modern
that's now in modern terms. Back then,
the purpose was
their purpose was to perfect their being, and master what they were supposed to come here for. So, for instance,
So why would they need to separate them if they can do it themselves? If the females can do it themselves, why the male?
No, that's correct. That's right. Good question. The males were created or separated, okay, purely because the death state that they were finding themselves in. Yeah, when they're conjoined. Yeah, because it's like, you see, conjoined twins, it's very difficult for them to do certain things. So the separation was required in order for them to complete what they needed to complete. So that's why they had to separate them, and it was done through the genes. It wasn't like literally like going to a hospital like they do conjoined twins now. They did it through the genetics, and then females and males were being born. But initially, when they were being born, it was difficult for them. Not a lot of them lived long enough. You see what I'm saying? When they were born. So in order to prevent that from happening, they went back into the DNA, and then they did it systematically where the child could be born individually. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, this leads to another question. So
so
the question I wanted to lead to is what was the purpose for the males? So
right, the purpose for the males in that time, because of the separation, is so that the males could fulfill their duty and the females could fulfill their duty. Yeah, so you want to know what the duties were?
Because there's other questions. So
yeah, no, it's fine. There is a lot more, but next class. But the duties essentially was to perfect their being, and then they could come back together in that essence state again and go move again back. You see what I'm saying? But living in this, put it this way, is energies, right? So you got masculine energy and feminine energy. When the feminine energies come together, okay, and then manifest into flesh, they were born as conjoined. You see what I'm saying? Having one mind. But yeah, so that mind state, their physical abilities was made, what's the word I'm looking for? It was harder for them to move around in this realm with that ability, with those physical imperfections. You see what I'm saying? Born as conjoined. So because they were dying, because conjoined twins don't live very long, yeah, they end up dying very early. So because of that, they went back into the gene. That's why they said it took 1,000 years. Yeah, they had to go into the DNA and keep perfecting until the point where they made the separation so that they could get the job done quicker and last longer on this realm. Does that make sense? So then what happened was that they got too mortal. That's where the wisdom of Tahuti explaining that through time, the mortality started to take over as opposed to their supreme immortality.
Lost connections.
Yeah. You know, they started losing connection and becoming more physical. Yeah. So their job then was that once they found out how to connect back with nature and how to connect back with their ancestors and extraterrestrial beings, because that was their task. They came here for a task, perfect themselves and then go back.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But through cycles, they got stuck here, and we're them. We're them in this cycle, in this present cycle. That's our ancestors who got stuck here. And they were born here by way of Ptah in the Sirius star constellation. That's a whole different story. But the Sirius star constellations, where they were originally came from, seeded into the dolphin and the dolphin protected them while in the womb as mermaids, yeah, for the lack of a better word. Okay, so these aquatic creatures then evolved onto land. That's where you get the Ogdoads and then the Chabatu, okay, the 9. And so from the 8 producing the 9, and all of these were patterns of energy. But then when they were born conjoined, which was reducing their ability to do what they had to do, and they were dying out quicker. So in order to prevent that, they separated their DNA, you see what I'm saying, into feminine and masculine.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. I hope you follow.
Yeah.
It's a lot, because the build is not just in here, the build is in other books as well. So you have to kind of like piece it all together. That's how the master writes, unfortunately. You have to kind of like link this up, and it will take longer for me to then break it down, because it's also in the Akasha records, the sacred feminine. There's a bit in there, do you know what I mean, about the left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain that links into this. So there's a lot of builds. And what the master's always said is he wants you to be part of the learning process. So he doesn't put it just into one book. He wants you to go and research it, study it, link it with this, which links with that, which links with that, and you get a whole complete picture. So if, like what you're doing with me now, you're questioning me about this, I can say, well, this book, that book, this is how it works. You see what I'm saying? And that's how he wants you to be. Because in doing that, you're perfecting your being. Yeah? Because you're studying about the human body, you're studying about genetics, you're studying about DNA, you're studying about atoms, you're studying all these different things. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to master yourself. Yeah?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Question on Clubhouse, I heard. The question on Clubhouse? No? Okay. Question on Zoom?
So in terms of the 24 to 24,000 cycles, do we have the free will, like when I pass from this physical existence now, do I have the free will to say, you know what, I'm done, I'm tired, I don't want to come back anymore? Can I just skip and go right back to all?
No, not at all.
Why not? Wow.
Because you have something called watchers. You have ascending masters and descending masters who record everything that you do. Yeah. And what their job is to do is to ensure that you've made it to, it's like, okay, when you go into school to take an exam, yeah, and you don't pass the exam, what happens?
Well, you have to stay back in the class and do it over.
There you go.
So it means I don't have free will then. I'm not a free will human being.
You have free will in as such as making decisions which will better your being. Do you understand? And you also have free will in the sense of that you can make a decision that will be detrimental to your being. But when it comes to moving through the higher planes of existence, remember, you're taking all those attributes with you. Yeah, those attributes of, let's just say you lived a positive life. Yeah, and you help people and you were considerate and you perfected your being. You didn't smoke, drink. You lived a wholesome way of life and you were able to help humanity. Okay, in that in itself means that you were able to leave this realm easier because you have less tests that you had to do. Had you then gone the other route and partied, smoked, drank, hang out all night, etc., then what you're doing is you're going to take those energies into those realms with you. And that is become like a form of disease to those other realms.
Okay, so assuming I'm on the first path of trying to help people, trying to be nice, because my motto is just be the best you can be and help somebody along the way. Isn't that enough now? Like, isn't that enough now?
That's not enough, because do you know about your human body? Do you know how your ears work?
Oh my God, we're supposed to just tired, man.
No, my sister, because think about it. You become an energy being, but remember, energy has a path. Electricity has a path. Water even has a path. Yeah, if you liken your soul to water, water has a pathway to get back to its source, right or wrong.
Right.
Right. So if you haven't learned the things you're supposed to learn, how do you know what path to take?
Well, source could just find me.
Who? So that's when we're going into ifs and buts and maybes and opinions.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is, the master said, study the human body, study energy, study quantum physics, and then you understand yourself.
Okay. So no skipping. No skipping is what I do.
No skipping, no shortcuts.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sister. Any last burning questions? You got one. Okay. Zamar, this our last one, yeah? Basta?
Right, is I guess a question around can something from sixth ether be useful to us? Now, I know the answer, well, I don't know the answer, but the inclination would be the answer maybe be no. But you mentioned Rupert Sheldrake, and there are other, if you like, thinkers, like you say, healers that come from, like from, let's say
other graces.
Yeah. So Sheldrake is European.
That's right. Yeah.
Carl Jung, European. Kind of talk about peptide functions that are all connected. So and then we go out into the world, and is there any value or what's the ethics of us actually taking some of those practices and earning the living out of them? Because I kind of feel inclined that way, kind of me, and I'm always checking, because I don't know, is it just a not a good spirit, if you like, that's leading me, or a good spirit, like go and help humanity, but to what extent and in what way? There's sort of questions around that. Now, that's just a bit of a paragraph rather than a question.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
what things do we use to help the world? Because there's
right.
Maybe
it's not as big as you think it is. The master gave an example in your potential, and there's a book. It's another book that you can get if you can get your hands on. He explained it like this: how important is building a doghouse to building a ship to take people to various places around the world? Which one's important? A ship. Neither, because they both serve their purpose. You see what I'm saying? So your job as a being is to serve whoever you can, serve humanity in whatever capacity you can. That's your purpose. You with me? It doesn't have to be great, large, big, etc.
Using our potential.
Exactly. That's what it's about. If you see a person and you can help them, help them. It doesn't have to be financial, monetary. If you see somebody that you can build a car for them, or you can get whatever, then build it for them.
Some people will say like suffer from anxiety, there's something about helping them, so usually on the first step.
Yeah.
Is that
you're helping humanity. Helping humanity. Yeah. That's what's help to as the master put it, if I can paraphrase, help good people to become better. That's our job as Sabians. I'm saying we're meant to help people to become better. Okay. And with that, if there's no burning questions, Rahubat. Go on.
Yeah, I heard you say that. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear clearly.
I heard you say you were born in Ghana. That's correct?
Yes, that's right, my brother.
Were you born speaking English, or was that your first language, or another one?
No, I was born. You know what? I was born because I left Ghana quite early, but I was born speaking two of the dialects in Ghana.
Okay. Yeah. So, what book was it that you first read that put you on that path, and how long have you been on that path?
Oh gosh. It was called The 60s. It was a pamphlet called The 60s. Very small ones, but they're quite thin. But in there's a portion that mentioned. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay. There's a portion in there that was mentioned about the small beings that came from the star Sirius, and that connected with me. That was it. That was that.
So you got genetic explosion.
I got a genetic explosion, and that was it. That made sense to me. So, and ever since then, I've been on the path. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're welcome, my brother. Okay, on that note, Taukum Lahe Yatoy, thank you for coming to our question answer class, and everything falls down. I'd like to thank everybody. Have a safe journey back home. We got a long journey ourselves, my goodness. And yeah, that's it. It will close. Oh, before we go, support. As you can see, Work Guard t-shirt on. Free Dr. York. Go to freedryork website.com. Okay. We're gonna also looking to have a Savior's Day. Okay. We're gonna finalize the venue and everything, let people know where we can gather together and celebrate the Master Teacher's birthday. That's on the 26th of June. But we'll let you know in up and coming weeks. Check out UnitedSavingWorldwide.com if you want to become a member. Fill in the administration form and submit it, and that'll be great. But support, freedryork.com.
Don't forget, donate to the Acts of Kindness, donate at outlook.com for the legal.
There you go.
Acts of Kindness, donate at outlook.com.
Okay. Tell comes Zamal.
Don't forget to tune on Tuesdays.
Tuesday. Oh, yes.
The radio station, our AfroBee radio station.
The Love and Unity show. Who's about Love and Unity show?
Also, the new wristbands coming next week for free. Dr. Kazi York wristbands. Yeah, so purchase those will be at the shacks next week. All right.
Right. Taukum. All right. Appreciate your time, everybody.
Thank you.
Brother, Tauta Dumal, safe journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.